Our guest is standing by. He is Brigadier General Sani Kukasheka, retired, former Director of Army Public Relations, to help us discuss not just what played out in Borno State, but zoom out and discuss national security and what a year it has been. A lot to talk about, so let's get it started. Good to see you again. Thank you so much for joining us. Compliments of the season to you.
Compliment of the season to you too. Thank you so much for having me.
Right. Just your quick take on what a year it has been. Security-wise, nothing new, more of the same, considering what has happened, not just in the northeast, in the north central, in the northwest, and Nigeria as a whole. How would you recap 2025?
Well, I think it's a kind of a mixture of a sort. There are high points and low points. High points in the sense that if we look at where we're coming from, given the indices, and luckily enough, one of those people that are keeping track of happenings security-wise, the Beacon Consult, the figures tend to improve toward the end of the year as against, at the beginning of the year. So it's a kind of mixed. But then when you think of the kidnappings and what's happened yesterday in Maiduguri, again, you tend to, that is understandable. Everybody wants a secured and prosperous Nigeria. So anything inimical to that, definitely it has a way that it impinges on the, the security landscape in this country. So it's more or less like a mixture of as such. But I think there is tremendous progress to a large extent when you look at the number of, security incidences across the northwest, northeast, and other parts of the country.
And in talking about what played out in Borno State yesterday, the attack in Maiduguri, suicide bombings, this was the main modus operandi of Boko Haram at its height, 2014, 2015. Even before that, there were several other bombings that we can talk about. But this year alone, we've seen a good number of it, from January to December. What does that tell you about what we're dealing with here? Is this going to be the new normal going into the new year and the years to come?
Now, first and foremost, I would like to express my sincere condolence to the victims of the unfortunate incidents of yesterday and the good people of Maiduguri in particular, and of course Borno and humanity in general, because loss of precious life, no matter the number, insignificant the number, is really something that is worrisome. And you have people that went to worship and then boom, somebody went and snooped the life out of them, and quite a number were, injured beyond imagination. So it is a very, very worrisome thing, and it calls for a lot of concern. But be it as it may, we tend to forget the resilience of the adversary. The adversary here, I'm talking about the Boko Haram terrorists, because even though nobody has come out yet to own up to the Destiny Act, but all accusing fingers point to the Boko Haram terrorist group. It's immaterial whether it is the JAS or ISWAP faction of it, but the bottom line is Boko Haram. And more so, the suicide bomber, I was made to understand, was even a teenager. Now, that has called for concern, and that is why we took up to our social media handle. And I say enough of the conspiracy of silence, because there is no way such things could happen without some people having an inkling. Maiduguri now is almost everybody knows everybody. The fact that there is semblance of peace and security, so we don't have to, relent, in terms of security consciousness on the part of the overall members of the society and the security agencies as to where. And kudos to the security agencies, because I believe he was not the only person they intend to unleash into the society. They were able to thwart some. So kudos to them. So I think it has called for, more collaborative efforts on the parts of the security agencies and the components of the society, particularly those residents in Maiduguri, because there is no way somebody will come up with an IED, move out to a mosque. Agreed, that time it was almost dusk, giving Maghrib prayer, so you hardly know who is who or who is carrying what. But in most instances, anyway, of course, it's a market mosque, so you hardly know the.
It's quite a busy area.
Yes, exactly, and more so, it was Christmas Eve. People were rushing to buy things against, 25th December. So it's understandable. So the thing is that whoever is the mastermind behind it was very, very deliberate and strategic, trying to send a message and all the rest. But we should not give in to these criminal elements, and of course it's just a response to the concerted effort, because I know there is a renewed vigor on the part of the security agencies and the collaboration on the part of the security agencies, the police, the military, and civilian JTF and the members of the society. So it's more or less like a kind of frustration, because you remember the suicide bombings and the attacks, they no longer attack security outposts now. Right. So they are moving towards soft targets. Now it is left for us to rise up to the occasion to say no, because Borno initially, along the street, particularly some parts of Maiduguri metropolis, you there cannot say the word Shekau or Boko Haram. You are dead meat within 30 minutes or so. Now we have come a long way. So all we have to do is to dust back those resilience and cooperative attitudes to make sure that these people will not have a free way. Right. This is one too many, and I hope they will not allow it to happen. And I'm so happy with what Nasrun has said. And I have had discussion with quite a number of the security agencies there in Maiduguri, and there is hope and reassurance that this thing will be nipped in the bud. And they have even embarked on sensitization effort and all the rest, so that people will understand that, look, it's a collective responsibility. Each and everyone, take for instance these places of worship, the committees responsible, they should heighten security, and they don't have to rely. And thankfully, today, all the churches in Maiduguri, they have had Christmas Mass, and nothing happened. So I think
does that say something about the proactiveness of our forces,
exactly,
or what does that tell us?
This is something that we have to continuously be building on. It just did not happen out of the blues. It was as a result of a concerted effort, sleepless nights, and collaboration on the part of the security agencies. And of course, kudos to the religious leaders who even cooperated fully with the security agencies. So with that kind of attitude, I'm so sure the terrorists will not have any freedom of movement, talk less of freedom of action. But people have to be forthcoming with information, because anytime you have a suicide bomb, detonating, when you walk back, at least backward, there are at least 10 other people that are involved. Somewhere along the line, we should be able to bridge it to understand what is happening before it. And
how concerning is this? Because we've seen this asymmetric tactic deployed in the early days of the Boko Haram insurgency. For quite some time, they've switched gears to other forms of guerrilla warfare. Now it does look like they still are able to do that, including the use of underage children, as is the case with what happened in the Gamboru market yesterday. How concerned are you that there is a social component of it that still leaves much to be desired in terms of how they're able to recruit in communities across the country?
I'm very much worried and concerned, because some of us that know Maiduguri, sometimes I tend to tell people that I felt more secured on the street of Maiduguri than on the street of Abuja. Just barely, less than 24 hours, just near somewhere around Millennium Park, somebody was waiting for the traffic light to give him green. The next thing, somebody came and stabbed him. And a couple of days ago, somebody was also stabbed to death. So that is Abuja as it is. But Maiduguri, such things are not happening. So definitely it is very, very worrisome to, have this kind of unfortunate incident happen in Maiduguri that have had, semblance of peace over time. And I recall way back 2016, when we have had the first Eid Kabir prayer at Ramat Square, it was more or less we were shedding tears, because for over 7 years, you cannot even ride a donkey, on Saturday and all the rest. But now look at how life is prosperous and all the rest. It took the concerted effort of the security forces and the community resilience as it is. So we have to roll back to make sure that thing, those who are trying to thwart peace in Maiduguri will not have that. But of course, given the social component, you should understand that First, there is issue of geopolitics in the sense that, you know, the what do you call it, the aid is no longer coming to sustain the IDP camps. And of course, they were penetrating the IDP camps. In fact, there is lack of sincerity or purpose on the part of the insurgents themselves. Because sometimes they penetrate, somebody will claim that profess to be a man of God, so to speak, and will lie about, you know, stipends, you know, about number of family members. So it sustained them. And now the state government is making concerted efforts. People should go back to their ancestral home. Now there is peace, and they don't like that idea. So they want to try at all costs to show relevance. And you are not forgetting the fact that since way 2016, a faction of the Boko Haram has sworn allegiance to, you know, ISIS and all the rest. So they had to tell their masters, actually, that they are still alive, kicking. And it is our duty and collective responsibility to ensure that we will not allow that.
Do you think this type of attack is them trying to prove a point?
Exactly, that is what it is.
And what would that point be exactly?
Of course, it's to show relevance. They don't care about the number of, the whole idea. Look at the publicity it has generated and the concern generated. To them, it's more than enough that they have succeeded in sending fear. You remember, unlike in the past, whenever they told you that somebody tells you that he's going to Maiduguri, you start saying that you are praying for him. But now people go there by air, go there by road, and all the rest. Suddenly, with this kind of thing, I am so sure you won't like your brother or sister now to say that he or she is going to Maiduguri with this kind of thing happening. So basically, that is what they want to achieve. And we will not allow them to achieve that simply because we know that actually Boko Haram represents nothing other than evil. And it is absolutely untrue that they are professing religion, because look at what they did and what they had been doing over the past, you know, years, you know, in terms of areas they attacked and the victims and all the rest of it. So basically that is it. And that gives credence to the issue that you are talking about social. We are talking about, you know, what do you call it? Belief system. So it is not even issue of social, because unless somebody is crazy, how could anybody give you bomb? It is no granite, it is no sugar cane. You go to where people are worshiping.
Yeah.
Then you go and kill them.
Yeah, takes me back to the question about the non-kinetic approach, because we do know that religious fanaticism or terrorism, as the case is with Boko Haram insurgency, is one that is ideological on one side. Ideologically, do you think that the government has been able to counter their messaging as well as the rhetoric that they're using to recruit their foot soldiers, young or old?
Well, you tend to say government. We have 3 tiers of government in this country: the federal, state, and the local government. Basket, right? Unless, okay, you are talking about. And I think I rather look at it the way that, you know, dealing with security challenges is a collective responsibility. You sitting down here, you have a role to play, and you have been playing it very well. You know, conscientizing the people, you know, giving the accurate news and all the rest, so that people can take a decision and know what to do, and so on. So it's a collective responsibility. Is it that Nigerian society is doing enough? That is the question you should have asked. Yes, agreed. The government has a role to lead. Now, there are so many non-kinetic, as you remember the Operation Safe Corridor. And of course, there is Maiduguri initiative. And of course, there are issues of dealing with the issue of terrorism and insurgency using the criminal justice system. You notice just recently there are quite a number of prosecutions, and you know, people were sent to jail and all the rest of the thing. I agree, sometimes some of us will feel that in fact it was just like a snap on the wrist because somebody who has killed someone. Right. I think there is no way you can think of anything less than 100 years for him. Right. As the case may be, or life sentence, as the case may be, not just 20 or 30 years. I think that is ridiculous, but that is just by the way. But beyond that, again, you look at everybody has a role to play, but there is no way anybody could play a role unless these things are brought to bear. One, issue of sensitization, improvement on the welfare, socio-economic well-being of, you know, the people. Because any security challenges that you see, they are predicated on these 3 things: the social cohesion, the political atmosphere, and the economic circumstances of the people. Just pick any society. So basically that is it. Yes, we should be worried. Why should such people will be enticed into this kind of idea? And what happened to the sensitization efforts? And I think there is need to do more. And I'm so happy that they have started. In fact, on my way to the studio, quite a number of people we have had discussion with. In fact, somebody was telling first week of January, I said, well, January is just next week, by the way. So they want to emphasize on this, sensitization. And more importantly, again, to further enhance, the first responders, the ability of the first responders. And I'm so happy. Now, who has just said they were there within 10 minutes. So let us improve. Let it be less than that. Even if it happened, and we don't pray that it happened, let it be preempted just like the other ones that have been preempted. We would have rather hear of preempting such things than allow you responding to that. Then how do you preempt them? By empowering them, making people to understand that they have a role to play, but at the same time, even if they volunteer information, the information is acted upon so that people, the security agencies will be more proactive. That means you have to improve their, logistics, welfare, technology, training, and of course, enhancing civil-military cooperation and relations, and synergy of efforts among the security agencies.
Right. There's always been a conversation about closing down the camps. It's counterproductive outcomes. You've talked about how the displacement in itself has given access to the radical groups to now have access to some of these individuals who are either unable to go back to their ancestral homes and are still in the capital looking for work, looking for means to put food on the table, gives them access to entice them one way or the other. I mean, what is essentially the thing that we need to fix with the de-radicalization programming? Because over the last couple of months, people have generally questioned the program that has been adopted by the government at the federal level to introduce these individuals back into the society. You've questioned it just a moment ago about how some people who have been responsible for the deaths and destruction in so many communities are easily given a slap on the wrist and are allowed to rejoin society, and in some cases are even, compelled in a way to even think about rejoining these terrorist organizations. In terms of de-radicalizing our society, especially in the northeast, whether it's in Borno or in Yobe State, what are we essentially missing here? Because it does look like the Boko Haram message is still able to appeal to a certain group of people.
I think, I would rather ask you what you are missing, because we are mixing two things at the same time. First and foremost, these people that are involved in the Operation Safe Corridor, they are entirely different with those people that are involved in the DIWA project. And they are entirely different people that are involved in the Borno initiative. Yes, I quite agree there should be harmonization on the three, but I want you to look at it from this perspective. One, whenever, Boko Haram attack a particular community and all the rest, they cut away able-bodied men and women and coerce them into joining. So it is not everybody that is in Boko Haram that actually ideologically subscribe to Boko Haram. Some of them were coerced into it, and the level of involvement. And remember, due to concerted effort, there were quite a number of them who voluntarily, laid down their arms and they come out. Of course, international humanitarian law categorically stated that you cannot attack somebody who is armed. It's a matter of
who's unarmed,
who is unarmed, right. And by the time he or she surrenders, so automatically you have to think of better ways. So, and that is where they have the joint investigation, and where the component of the security, particularly the intelligence, are represented. They with the civilian JTA representations all over, they will screen and determine the level of culpability. That will determine whether one should go for the the program, or the safe corridor in Gombe State, or he will face prosecution as the case may be, because it so happened that most of them that are found to be wanting are actually taken to into Giwa project, you know, so, and eventually they are prosecuted. So you should distinguish between these two. So people, and that is where, if I may say, where we are missing it, there isn't enough sensitization. So people should understand, because there is no way you can kill everybody. And so if somebody has been found to have been kidnapped, take for instance any of the Chibok girls, how can you prosecute them? You can't, because they were taken against their will. But beyond the Chibok girls, there are several other people, you know, women and children that were taken against their will by the Boko Haram and subjected to so many indignities, inhumanities, in Burma, Gambrung, pick anywhere. So basically, these are the issues. And I think there is need to harmonize it. There is need for proper sensitization so that people will understand the difference between those that are hardened criminals and those that actually were coerced into it. They were looking for an opportunity. They have not even handled weapons. So
yeah, but if you have to consider it, looking at the carrot and stick, has the Safe Corridor been an effective tool in that regard? Are we getting value for money?
I think so far, at the last count, I think they have about 2,000, and I have not heard of any retribution. I haven't heard. And that is why I said there is need for more sensitization so that people will understand. They will even, you know, support. But there is so much misinformation and disinformation across board that people hardly know what is going on. But they are doing marvelously well. The Borno initiative, they are also doing very well. There hasn't been much, I can't remember hearing of any resurgence, but you just wake up, somebody will tell you that no, they have been, in fact, somebody has said that they can join the military, they can become president. You know, a lot of misinformation. And there is need to really, really sensitize the Nigerian society. Because an average Nigerian wants accurate and timely information so that he will know what to do at any given point.
But Brigadier, do you understand, do you understand and appreciate the frustration of the public when it comes to, say, the Safe Corridor initiative itself and the idea that the government is spending a lot of money trying to rehabilitate repentant Boko Haram operatives?
Yeah, but the truth is that it happened several other areas, but there is no way you can do that in isolation with the justice. Justice not only to the victims, but also to the perpetrators of the crime themselves. So basically, it's just a question of harmonizing this effort and at the same time, sensitizing the public about what is going on. I am so sure there is so much ignorance about it, and there is need, really, to sensitize the public in respect of what is going on so that people will have a fair understanding between the criminal elements of the Boko Haram and those who are taken against their will. And now that even not just the terrorists, even bandits have been declared more or less terrorists now. So automatically, and if for whatever reason, God forbid, you are traveling from point A and B and the kidnappers, you know, took you, is something else. And that was exactly what happened to some of the victims in Boko Haram. Apart from those that they killed, they took some people against their will. So these are the kind of people that are subjected to that, the radicalization program. And it is not just enough they follow them and they sensitize the society, but unfortunately, the information is not enough. There is need for more information in respect of the program and sensitization of the people so that people will be receptive to it, about it and all the rest of them. But above all, again, there is need, you know, to enhance the socio-economic well-being of an average Nigerian so that these people, because any of these non-state actors that you see perpetrating, they are just filling a vacuum. Because if institutions are working optimally, there is nobody who will come and tell you simply because you are having headache. You know that you go to hospital and they will start telling you that it is your village people and all the rest. Before you know it, you have entered into something else. So these are the issues. So it goes hand in glove with all these things. So much as you think of dealing with it kinetically, you have to think of non-kinetic, and these are some of the issues. Yeah,
the governmental gaps are quite obvious, leading to so many other structural issues. But the last quarter of 2025 has been quite eventful, to say the least. There's the international conversation about Nigeria's categorization as a CPC, country of particular concern, coming from the United States.
Even more.
Yeah. Also, in the last quarter of this year, we've had to deal with some internal changes, reshuffling in terms of the military leadership. We saw the service chiefs change with the exception of 2. We also saw the reappointment of General C.G. Musa as Minister of Defense. In other news, the kidnappings in the North Central grabbed national headlines, from the ones in Niger State to the ones in Kwara, to all the other developments across in Kebbi also, the Maga abductions. Talk to me about 2025 from the perspective of what has happened in the last quarter, in this particular quarter that we're in, that is wrapping up just next week. We've seen so many of the negative headlines, but it looks like the year is ending on a high. Some are crediting the Americans for putting a lot of pressure on our government to do the needful. Do you think that that's a fair categorization of what happened? That the pressure from outside made the Nigerian government step up and give Nigerians what they've been asking for over the last 10 years?
That's one thing I like with Nigeria. So many perspectives. It depends on where you are coming from. But this could be a factor, but honestly, it is not in the real sense of it, in the sense that I know a lot is being done. Take, for instance, I've told you, let's talk about the issue of yesterday in Borno. It could have been worse, but somewhere mitigated. And then at the same time, again, I kept on talking about the socio-economic well-being. In the first place, what brought about even the issue of Americans, putting, categorizing Nigeria? To a large extent, it were Nigerians that went and complained against their government. So why should it be so? Why should it be so? This is the question we should ask ourselves. And of course, as there are so many fora I belongs to, and we notice the divisive tendencies among the components of Nigerians. And there is no way you can deal with security challenges with a divided house. And unless we stop politicizing security issues, we'll continue to have the problems we're having. We should understand that an injury to one is an injury to all. The fact that you are in Ebonyi, Kano is burning, and you think you're oblivious of it, you are making the catastrophic mistake. So it is a collective responsibility. And of course, government has a tremendous role to play in terms of galvanizing the society to make sure. Because the main staying power of Nigerian society is the human resource. And an average Nigerian is not even asking for much. So basically, these are the questions that need to be answered, and then you talk about all those things. But come to think of it, yes, it could be a factor, but I know that security agencies finding, given the circumstances they found themselves, because there are other countries who face similar situation decades. And even when you talk about the Americans and all the rest of them, but the incidences per day, per month, per week in the United States is far more grievous than what is happening in Nigeria. But that is not an excuse. Because if you look at section 14 of the Constitution, what did it say? In respect of the government. Yeah. So it is its primary responsibility. So these are the things that we should be concerned about. But the good thing, again, the level of responsiveness when incidences occur. And I think it's a work in progress. Look at what happened. At least the Niger State, everybody is back. Everybody seems to be happy. But the most important thing is, how do we stop that from happening? Why should we allow non-state actors? And if you take the total aggregate of the criminal elements in Nigerian society, the population of this country is about 200 million, right? Let's assume 50 million are in diaspora. We have 150 million residing in this country, including residents, all right? The criminal elements, are they up to 2 million? They are not. So why should it be so?
Some talk about the kidnapping economy, saying that it's one of the most profitable that we've seen in recent history. Does that then explain why it is hard to
It is
to get
your
rid of
company, Media Trust, that came out with a marvelous statistics about the ransom economy, you know, in respect of kidnapping, that runs into trillions, right? The last time I saw it, a marvelous job. But the truth is that, again, where has that money gone to? Who are those benefiting from it? Because to the best of my knowledge, especially in the Northwest, I have not heard of any mosque that has been renovated. Talk less of constructing one. I've never heard of any hospital that has been renovated. Talk less of constructing one. Or school, or roads. So where has the money gone to? This is the question. So it goes into the pockets of some criminal elements, and what do they do with it? They buy weapons, drugs, and they have satisfied their vanity. So why should we allow that kind of thing to happen?
And where, how do you explain to the public that are growing ever suspicious when it comes to these releases, whether it's the Maga abduction, the Papiri abduction, the one in Kwara, the Eruku abduction of churchgoers, and a host of others that we saw in the last couple of weeks? The public is on one hand happy that they are back, but are also left scratching their head and say, how did that happen exactly? And the government is saying, listen, monies did not exchange hands. And Nigerians are just perplexed by it. Then what happened? Do you care to, ask that same question as someone with, experience about how these things play out? Do you also have ordinary questions like, what actually happened? How were they rescued?
And every Nigerian would like to ask such questions, and especially when such a number of people were rescued. Was there any exchange of money, or was there any exchange of other things? Was there a fight, and what happened to the casualties and all the rest of them? And that is why it is very, very important to carry the people along when you are dealing with security challenges, in the sense that a more enlightened society is easier to govern, is easier to help in dealing with the security challenges. And what brought about all these suspicions, you have the best of intention, because this is not the first time we have had. You remember the 23, the former Chief of Defense Staff Special Committee, and I know that a dime was not given, and they came out. But you still have some people that will sway over their lives that it is not true. And that is where the issue of politicization of security issues in this country comes into play. You have a lot of people, no matter what, and at the end of the day, you see people, by the time you prove further, you realize it comes to naught. And that, I think, should be the purview of people like you. What happened to investigative journalism? You should come out with the truth. You owe us that, to investigate and tell the people the truth. And the government also owe us that, bearing, security consideration, to tell us the truth. So
as someone who has managed the comms of the Nigerian army itself, are there certain things, I do know that there are certain things you just cannot tell the public, but do you understand where Nigerians are coming from when they feel that the government is telling them half-truths or being economical with what is actually playing out? Therefore, people are allowed to then imagine for themselves and fill in the blanks regarding the mystery of the conversation.
You are talking about Nigerians as if I'm not a Nigerian. And possibly me and you, yes, we feel the pulse on the streets and know what is happening, and it's understandable. And that is why I kept on talking about politicization of security. You have prominent individuals that will come out and say one thing, and the government will come. And sometimes even within the government, you see some people saying one thing and the other people are saying something. And that is why it is always good to have a kind of harmonized way of talking to the people. I agreed sometimes there are certain things bearing security consideration, especially about ongoing operations and future intents that you cannot talk, and for the safety of the people and the rest of them. But given there are certain things that you need to tell the public so that they can either avoid or even help to, mitigate the situation as it were, because the security agencies cannot be all over the place. Sometimes the people there on the ground are far more informed and they have a better idea because they know the people that are involved in this kind of thing and how best to mitigate it. So basically that is it. So I can understand what you are talking about, Nigerians saying, some Nigerians saying what they are saying, and of course, not believing government. And of course, I made mention of it earlier on, that no matter how hard you try to assist people, but try to be forthright with the people. At the end of the day, truth is always constant. It won't change. But I can rest assure you, by the time you tell one lie, you will tell 10 more to try to cover it. And at the end of the day, you will not even cover it all.
All right. And as we wrap up, next year, understandably, is going to be even much more politically charged than what we experienced, because it will be the stage for 2027 as we prepare for the next general election. So heightened political activity means heightened security concerns, as the case may be. And you've talked about the politicization of some of these things. And we've seen these security concerns across most, if not all, the geopolitical zones in the country. What should be the key areas to look out for next year, especially, considering what will play out politically and how that could have security implications?
Well, I think it's quite disturbing that there are noticeable politicking is against governance issue, and I think it shouldn't be. And what people do not even understand, especially those in position of authority, you don't even work yourself hard if you are able to solve some of the problems that are disturbing the people. Take, for instance, the issue of insecurity. But then you cannot solve security single-handedly. It requires joint effort at national and subnational level. At national, you need cooperation and support of neighboring countries and even well-meaning international community. And I'm so happy that with what I am hearing, things are getting better, because there is a renewed vigor in terms of change of tactics dealing with, especially, and that is why you see the level of desperation on the part of Boko Haram with suicide bombing, changing tactics as it were. Now, beyond that again, at subnational level, local government autonomy, the issue of cooperation, especially among the state governors. There is no way one state can do it alone. You need to. And I'm so happy that some time ago there was ban for 6 months mining in the northwest.
Right.
But then do we have the capacity to impose it? There is a declaration of state of emergency. Have we interpreted it? Who does what? What is the implication? So these are the issues. So it is not just enough to pronounce things. You have to walk the talk, as it were. And by the time we deal with security issues, I can rest assure you, we won't have much to talk about in respect of that. And that can be done. Because bulk of the problems, they are local and the solution is local, even though we require support. So I think we should concentrate more in dealing with security challenges. It is not just enough that we just have this, fire brigade. We do respect to fire service, fire brigade approach to issues. We should be far more proactive, using time-tested complete resolution mechanism. We have these things, so it is not just militarizations of issue. We should think of other options of resolving conflict. In fact, mitigate it before it occurs. And the starting point is the issue of making sure local government works, and of course time-tested complete resolution mechanism, and have a better way of dealing with issues as soon as they arise.
Right. All right. Brigadier General Kukasheka, as always, a pleasure. Thank you so much for the analysis and for joining us on Daily Politics. I appreciate you very much for your time.
Thank you so much, too.
Right. And that is a wrap on tonight's edition of the program. Thank you most kindly for joining us. We do appreciate the company. We'll be back tomorrow live at 8 p.m. Until next time, I'm Abdullahi Ahmed. From myself and the rest of the team, thank you for joining us. We'll see you soon.